Good morning, everybody. This is Chat with CHAP. I am your host, Ginger Wade, and you can see I have a special guest with me today, and you will get to know her very soon. But I want to give you a few reminders before we get started on our really excellent episode today about groups. We have the Midwinter Conference coming up. And if you didn't know, this is a wonderful place to connect with people in the middle of winter when you're like, and I need some encouragement and I can't make it to the spring and I just have to stop homeschooling. You need to come to the Midwinter Conference if you're feeling that way, because there are so many encouraging speakers that will be there to give you the oomph to get through. We will have registration for convention there, so that's going to be awesome too. So check out my previous episode with Sarah where we talked all about it. And also the Midwinter Conference is the beginning of our Whistle Stop tour with Andrew Pudewa, which is also going to State College and out to Pittsburgh. So we are reaching out all across the state to support you guys in the wintertime here, to give you that little special boost to help you along with your vitamin C and vitamin D to get you into the springtime. So look for information on that at midwinter.chaponline.com. And if you go to our events page, it'll take you wherever you need to go to get to those events. So chaponline.com/events. Okay, so let's meet our guest for today. Our guest is Maria Green. Hello, Maria. Thanks for coming to the show today.
Hi, hello. It's an honor to be here.
It's awesome that you have stopped in. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you, your family, how you're connected with CHAP, and how I happen to know that you're out there doing cool stuff.
Sure. I moved to Pennsylvania 4.5 years ago. I knew of the area prior to that because I had gone to college down in Arcadia University. And so I had an education in education. Actually, I went to college for that. And through my studies, I realized that the system is turning in a different direction. And I felt it as a student, but being a teacher, it was a completely different world. So the idea of looking for alternative education sparked then. Um, Later, I met my husband, and we have 2 kids now. They are 4 years and 2 years, both boys. Um, it just so happened that my husband was homeschooled because of his childhood. So it worked really well because then he introduced me to the idea of homeschooling, and I was on board from the moment he said it. This was even before we had kids, so we had already decided.
All
Um,
right.
but our older one, he really likes to know how things work, and he's already academically starting to get there. So, I think it was actually in 2023 at the end of it that I started looking into homeschooling in Pennsylvania, and I came across CHAP, and I saw that there was a volunteers page, and so I went on, and I am now the homeschooling in the news coordinator with CHAP. Yeah, which is
Thank you. That's
perfect. Yes, because
yes.
I get to look at all the articles that come through. So I'm building my foundation in homeschooling for when the true, academic years come for my kids. And I thought, why not help? Because I'm already looking for
Already
things. So it
doing
was
it.
perfect. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I
Yeah.
love that part of your story. And you know what? Hey, for all of you listening, if you aren't signed up for the eNews, go to chaponline.com. Under contact, you can subscribe to our eNews, and you will see the articles that Maria picks out, and Stephen puts them in there, so you guys can read them all too. So yes, we are very glad to have you what's the word? Curating our article selection.
Cute.
So that is really great. So you had done some articles, right? Did you write a few articles?
I did. So it happened because I actually asked Chap to list me on the website. Um, so Stephen found out that I started a homeschooling group because of the request. And he asked me if I could help him fill in some, um, just to get extra content in there. And as the new person starting a new homeschooling group, so
Mhm.
I have 4 articles revolving around that, um, which is actually interesting because when you look up how to start a homeschool, it's all legal, but nobody really tells you the struggles that sometimes come with starting a homeschooling group. Um, and of course, it's going to vary because mine, I was starting it at a church. And so they have their own insurance and they encouraged me to get my insurance with the homeschooling group. So things like that that I did not find in all of the research that I came across in starting a group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked about this a few times on my show, and maybe I'm sitting here thinking, maybe we need to have a page with that kind of a checklist kind of thing available for people who are looking. So maybe we'll have to talk about that, Maria, after we're done recording. But yeah, so groups are so important. I don't know. I don't know how you feel, but I feel so encouraged when I'm with other people. I don't do well as an island. Some people love doing the island thing, and we're doing our own thing, right? And we're out here homesteading and off the grid and whatever else. And man, that's not me, and it wasn't my oldest either. So we've always been connected with a group, and the groups that I've jumped into were always well established. I did help in the leading of it, so I was on the leadership team on both of the co-ops that I've been at through my homeschooling career. So I know a little bit about how they run, but I don't really know much about how you get them off the ground. Like, I did know that ours had insurance, and of course you have to get clearances. Like, if we're at a church, we
Yeah.
have to have clearances, and you have to, and then what's your discipline plan, and what's, so I'm getting into the nitty gritty there, but I know there's a lot of stuff, but I've never actually had to create it from nothing. so so let's talk about that a little bit. So, you have your children, and you said you thought, well, I'm going to start a group. Like, how did you get to this point of saying, well, I want to create something. I want to be part of a group. Or, like, was there nothing around where you were, or tell us about kind of how you got to that I want to be plugged in thought.
It was actually planted from an interview that I had. So in 2023, I got laid off from my job, and um, I was actually returning from maternity leave with my second. So we knew that we needed the additional income just because my husband at that point, could support us, but it was really tight.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I was looking, and COVID was still kind of big. I'm up in the Pocono Mountains, so it's
Yeah.
hard to get jobs here in general. A lot of them were hours away just to make it into the office. Um, and I came across one that was actually half an hour away. It was for a Christian camp, girls' camp, but they needed somebody year-round to just start all the activities. So it's like an activity coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out. I had a interview with the manager, and she would have loved to take me on, but I told her I had little kids, and so I was asking about, time off and things like that, and she just wanted to tell me that she didn't want me in that place because she was a single mom and she had to raise her child who is now in her teens. But she said that, on paper it says 40-hour weeks, but it's never like
It's
that.
not. Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm thankful for her honesty
Mm-hmm.
because family is big to us and we do
Mm-hmm.
have a good work-life balance. But she said because my background and we got to talking about homeschooling as well because she homeschooled her child just because
Mm-hmm.
she had to have her with her at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So she actually said, look into your church, ask your pastors to see if there's an opportunity for a homeschooling group because, your background and your passion for organizing. And sure enough, it was the Holy Spirit that made me write the email because I got off that interview, wrote the email, sent it, and then I was like, why did I just do that? I didn't think about it. It just went out. And our pastors actually thought it was a great idea. They
Great.
moved to our church, I think now 13 or 14 years ago. And when they came into it, there was a homeschool group that was happening, but it was only a couple years because the person running it was already older and her children they were, past
Yeah.
college, but she kept it going
Yeah.
until she just couldn't anymore and nobody else picked it up. So they thought this was the opportunity that they were looking for. And so I started that process. And, in my search, there are no rules to homeschooling groups. So
Yep.
there was
Yep.
like so many
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's overwhelming actually,
Mhm.
just because we came to our church about 2 years ago, like a steady going, just because our kids, even though they have a nursery, it was a small church. So I'm actually involved in the nursery because I had to stay with my kids most
Mhm.
Sundays to
Mhm.
help. And so um, I wasn't really aware of how many families were homeschooling and the ages. I knew there was kids, and a lot of them are in the older grades. So I kind of already knew going in that it was going to be very large range of kids just because mine are preschool aged and a lot of
Yeah.
them were in the grades.
Yeah.
So we kind of decided to get a survey going to see, the interest level. And I did get a lot of families in grades, elementary and middle school.
Mhm.
So we decided because it was such a big range, and believe it or not, a lot of our families have special education children.
Wow.
Yeah. So the academics was kind of already taken care of by the parents, but they wanted something social.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And yeah, and the biggest thing I think that sets us apart from a lot of the homeschooling groups in this area is that we wanted Christian-based learning too, like outside of Sunday school. We
Mhm.
wanted to bring
Mhm.
in Christ. And so um, we have Bible lessons embedded in our meetings. We
Great.
meet once a week. Well, right now we're on a break for the winter
Mhm.
and the holidays, and there's something going on around us. Everybody's getting sick. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we're just
Yeah.
waiting for that to go. But
That's totally understandable. We had one year. I'm trying to think. There was a few years. There was one year where there weren't even enough moms to teach the classes because they actually shut co-op down for a week or two because I think it was a stomach bug or something. Everyone was sick for like 2 weeks at least, and it was just like, just forget it. We can't even have enough people to cover the classes. Everyone stay home. You're all sick. But that's what happens. I mean, when you're in a group and you have kids of all ages and I mean, whatever. I mean, that's sometimes that's what you need to do. So
yeah,
taking a break is, it's a good thing. And that's a nice thing. You can set your own schedule. You create it to meet the family's needs. So like you said, you have a lot of special needs children. So it wasn't like you were looking for like my co-op provides high academics, senior high, junior high, senior high classes. But that's not everybody has to do that. My first co-op was all enrichment. It was gym class and art
yeah,
class, and we did dramas and plays and things like that. I do a drama for the one I'm in now, but it can literally be whatever you want it to be. So it was really cool that, you had a survey, you talked about it, what is it that we're looking for, and you're just looking to create what the need was, right? Like where you are, like
yeah,
your unique need, and that's really going to speak to certain people, right? So don't be afraid to do something that seems niche or not like everybody else because there are different needs in the community, right? So you said you talked to your church and they were really welcome to hear about that, and that's really great. So did so they suggested to you to look into insurance. Is there anything else that they talked to you about? Like, were they going to charge you fees to use the church, or like we had mentioned clearances, or like what are the other things that the church were like? Well, we want you to use the space, but here's the guidelines. Did they give you anything?
yeah. They were very vague though because he was going based on what was with the last homeschool. And so he actually gave me the contact of that person. We talked briefly, but our schedules just never were worked out so that we could get into the details of things. But
Hmm.
between the church and the contact, they kind of gave me like the overview of how it worked back then. And so what she never was asked to pay rent or anything, but she just never felt like she couldn't do it for free 100%. And so what she started doing was they would collect money at the end of the year, and they would offer that to the church to pay for electricity and all any of that. And with us, it I decided that was fair too because I just can't take the space
Yeah.
without paying. But we
Hmm.
also decided that I would include things like the paper copier, because he told us we could use all of their, you know, printers and paper, and we have a kitchen on the basement floor. He said that was open to us.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so
Yeah.
it's wonderful because we get to do snacks with the kids once
Mhm.
in a while, and we'll teach them through that. Believe it or not, you could do a lot with the recipe, teach math,
Yes, you can.
teach,
Yep.
everything,
Chemistry, kitchen
chemistry, yes.
chemistry.
With the little kids, it's patience and taking turns. So
Yes.
there's a lot that goes into that. So it's wonderful. And yeah, so the way I set it up was a little different. Instead of doing a yearly once collection, we actually decided with our families that it was like a monthly fee. And also because they didn't want me to pay out of pocket for the insurance. So we have a monthly fee that gets collected. And in today's world with, the internet, I actually have a website that that's what I use to collect payment
Okay.
if somebody wants to do it via debit card or credit card.
Yeah.
And then if they want to give cash, I just keep a record of it too.
Mhm.
Um, I like to make sure everything's recorded for any
Yeah.
purpose down the line. So
Yeah, that's a good idea. We have a treasurer in ours too, and they keep all the books. They keep, they have all the different ways. Do you Zelle? Do you Venmo? Do you PayPal? Do like all the things? Everyone
yeah.
uses something different, right? So that's very handy. There's something that popped into my head there that I wanted to ask. Oh, so so they didn't have you like sign a particular contract or anything like that?
Not a contract, but they did
Okay.
ask a certificate for liability insurance so that
Okay.
they're
Yeah.
covered under it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think that was the only thing. And of course, clearances. We had to make sure all the
Yes.
parents had clearances, which wasn't such a big issue for us because most of them were already involved in the children's
Yeah.
ministry in one way or another. So
Yeah.
that was easy. The office already had a
Mhm.
record. We did have a mom who was interested in it, but she stopped coming just because it was a long drive. She came down from Bangor, which was like 40 minutes away, and she had it. I guess now she's over a year because she was about 11 months when we started. So it was getting hard with, nap times and feeding
Mhm.
schedules. But she was very happy to provide clearances. There was no issue. I found that a lot of parents were okay with it. The safety of
Mhm.
their kids came first. So it was
Yeah. Yeah.
understandable, which was good because I also know some parents get very skeptical about it. So,
Yeah.
there's those two spectrums.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's the law. So you kind of have to do it, even though it's kind of a pain, right? It's kind of like all the stuff with the homeschool law, right? It's just a pain.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you that maybe would be good for people to hear and process and think about. Well, like when you were talking with your pastor at the church and stuff,
Mhm.
do you feel like you had really good communication, like you knew what you could use and couldn't use? Like I know sometimes there's like, what are we allowed to use? Like what are your rules for this? Or like, did you just have a conversation about that? Was it like a word of mouth thing? That I guess that's why I asked about the contract.
Right.
Um, you can use this space and you can use that space, but you have to clean up. So was there any conversation like that with your pastor about the church?
Yes, we did. And we also had the secretary there. She was taking notes. So I guess
Oh,
they have
great.
a record of it. And I was taking notes too, just so I would remember what there was.
Yeah.
But there was no formal signed
Yeah.
contract. He said we could have access to the whole building, and as long as we cleaned up after ourselves, which
Hmm.
I'm used to that anyways in the nursery, we help out. And so he said that was up for grabs. We have two vans that he also offered us, but I gently declined because we had a lot of families with car seats. And when I brought that up, he's like, "Oh, you know what? That's actually a good
Yeah.
idea." I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, if we ever take field trips, I think we're just gonna meet there because
Yes.
it gets a little tricky with kids, and I've been in those vans. It would not be suitable for car seats." So um, but with the vans, he said as long as we help with gas, like it was up for us. So I told him later on when the kids are in high school and they can get
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
booster seats, then we would totally take
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. The boosters kill it. The boosters kill it every time. So that's really good. So I just think that's something important for people to feel comfortable. If you have a question, ask it, right? If you're
Yeah,
wondering, what you have permission to do, if you don't have a written down thing, ask it. If you're concerned about, ask it. It's not good to not ask a question and then feel nervous about it all the time, right? So I think,
right,
wherever it is that you're looking to set up your group or wherever it is you're looking to meet, it's good to have those conversations and have them communicate clearly with you and don't be afraid to ask the questions. So you were talking about you talked briefly with the previous homeschool group person. Um, was there like did you was there much help or guidance from veteran folks, or did you just kind of like jump into this and figure it out for yourself, or like did you look to other groups, or is there anyone where else that you looked for ideas or
yeah. I think it was a mix because she gave me, her schedule, but they were more academically focused.
okay.
So it was a little different in that aspect of, oh, where am I gonna find lessons, ideas for this? Just because we were we're focused more on biblical teachings and social aspects. And so I started looking online for ideas. I came across a couple websites that they're geared for Sunday schools, but I adapted them. And
Mhm.
so they were offering free lessons. And so I would, take what they offered and I would read the passages in the Bible and then just adapt the lesson plan. So I would make sure that there was something adequate for the younger kids and then for the older kids, kind of just elevate it a little bit, make it a little more challenging and thought provoking. And that seems to be working for us.
Mhm.
Everybody's content. And
Yeah.
so, and I always make sure there's a craft, just because I'm a hands-on person. So
Mhm. Mhm. Most
something, whether it's an experiment or, a craft,
Yeah.
an arts and craft, something.
Yeah, most kids are kinesthetic.
Yeah.
They start kinesthetic. Most children are. Some might move into auditory visual later, but most kids like to do stuff with their hands. So it sounds like, so when you meet together, everybody's together in one. You don't split out into groups at this point, just meeting together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I try to do a story too.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'll pick a book. The first one that just popped into my head was The Seed by Eric Carle. I was at the library just looking through books, and it just happened that that week I was I was trying to figure out for the following week what to do around the story of the gardener and the seed, or the sower and the seed. And
Hmm.
as I was reading it, I realized that it was all based on the story. I explained the whole parable through the
Hmm.
seed, and I was just amazed because it really was the Holy Spirit who put that connection
Yeah.
in my head.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
kids too, like the older ones, the sixth graders were like, "Whoa, I never
Oh.
noticed that before either." So it was that has been my most memorable lesson, just
Oh,
because
that's
a
really cool.
simple children's book took us into
Yeah.
deeper conversations. That
Yeah.
was beautiful.
So you get together. It's like out what 2 hours? Like, well, how long do you spend together? Like,
We do 3 hours,
okay.
uh, and then there's an option for lunch. And so, in the warmer weather, we like to go outside and have a picnic, and then families just leave when they're ready. And we clean up before we go outside, so that way, because we really are a tight-knit community, so we like
Yeah,
to help each other out. So we'll
it's
clean
great.
up, and that way, when they're ready to go, they go. I'm in charge of locking up the church for security purposes, unless
Mm,
there's an event happening and somebody is already there.
it's already there.
Um,
Hmm.
that's the one thing that they did ask me to do. And yeah, so it's really like 3 hours where we're together learning, and then that 1 hour of optional lunch, which I
That's
just
great.
think it builds fellowship in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Food is always good. Food brings people together, right?
Yeah.
Food is good. So, yeah, so how many did you say it was, how many other people are coming in, were coming in with you? Like, was it just you and one other person and you just said, let's just do this thing? Or was there, you put out a, hey, I'm doing this thing, and you had a bunch of people coming in? Like, how did that look? Did your group start small and get a little bigger and small, and like, is it ebbing and flowing in that way? Like, how's that looking?
Yeah, it's ebbing and flowing. I actually posted an announcement on our bulletin board at the church, and then the pastor said it was a good idea to do social media. So I created Facebook page for the co-op and an Instagram page. I'm not really social media heavy, but
Yeah,
I'd like, that's what I use it for. It's just to post announcements on there. That's how I started spreading the word for the beginning. We had 6 families registered, 4 came on the first day, and then 3 stayed up until October. One of them, she has 4 girls, and her youngest has special needs, and so it was getting a little difficult coming. So she actually took a break before everybody else took a break. Um, and now from what I've been gathering, it's going to be just 2 families, maybe 3, but I'm okay with that. I think you need to let things breathe, and God will
absolutely.
do it in his own time. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and everyone has different seasons on
right.
what's happening, and that's where, like, when you're looking at it, if you're looking on joining a group and they do meet all year long, you have to think about the cost. Like, you have to count
Yes.
the cost because your commitment is the whole year long. Or if you want to start a group that ebbs and flows, and okay, we're going to do this for a while, or maybe you're not available and someone else wants to run it a little bit and come up with something, or or it just rests for a little while till, and it's really, I think it's wonderful to be able to have that freedom and
Yeah.
not feel hemmed into the, like the school system thought. We always go back to what we know, right? That school system way of thinking. So, so when you were deciding things like, this is when we're going to meet, this is what, did you make those decisions, or did you like poll the people who were interested and say, when would you like to meet? Like, did you just kind of say, well, this works for me, and I'm just going to pick this, and whoever can meet me can meet me? Or how did you handle those decisions?
Sure, yeah. After the initial survey, when I had people responding and were interested, then we did more of a formal registration. And on that, I asked them, did they want to meet twice a week or once a week? Um, we were kind of constrained to twice a week max for now, just because of
Yeah.
the availability of the church space. And so that kind of helped me set parameters for that. And when I saw the feedback from the families, we decided once a week was good for us, just because we all have different kids, and some people are actually doing like a hybrid school system, so they
Okay.
have a curriculum they need to follow, and it's a little more
Mm,
strict on the
secretive.
deadlines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we came down to that one day a week for 3 to 4 hours.
That's great though. That's great. So then, but still, it can still ebb and flow. It
Yeah.
can be, it can change as you need it to change. So I love that. And then the church being right there it's so good to hear. They're like, yes, please have a group here. I'm going to encourage you out there. If you're thinking about starting a group and you need somewhere to meet, go ask your church, or go ask a church that's near you, or whatever, because it why not use for people to use, we might as well use those buildings. My internet connection is being goofy. So hopefully this video sticks with me. We're going to keep trying here. So it's good. It's good with pastors being willing to support this, because that's huge. Like, why not use your building, and why not support families in this wonderful thing that they're doing with their children? Besides the insurance and the clearances, is there any other legal type things that you think someone might need to know in starting a group, or anything that you came in contact with in your experience?
Yeah. So I actually registered our homeschooling as a nonprofit because
Okay.
we needed to get insurance. They needed to get the documentation for that. And um, I also opened up a bank account, so I got a tax ID number. Um, just because I wanted to keep things separate, and then for insurance purposes, we're using the business account.
Hmm.
So that's the only extra. But the state of Pennsylvania doesn't require you to be
Gotcha.
registered as a nonprofit.
Okay.
Again, that just came from insurances
Mhm. Yay,
requirement.
insurance.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So is there anything else that maybe we haven't talked about that you think would be important for people to know if they're thinking about starting a group? Like, I don't know. Is there anything else that you would like to share with everybody, if you want to encourage them, go ahead and do it.
I think that you just need to listen to your heart and listen to God, what He places in your heart. I was really scared at the beginning, especially because I wasn't even thinking of homeschooling, starting a co-op actually. Like I was starting to homeschool my kids in little ways, but starting a co-op, it never crossed my mind. They're still so young. Like I was like, okay, God, this is what you need from me. Here I go. My
Hmm.
husband was like, if he's telling you to do it, we should do it. And so, it helps to have his support. But
Yeah,
I just jumped in. I prayed. I made sure that that's what he wanted me to do, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm just seeing where it goes.
that's great. That is great. And I just love that you listened, right? God said, do this, let's do this thing, and you listen. Because I think especially like you were mentioning again, the kids with special needs and being flexible for those families. I know it's so hard, especially if you're trying to plug into an academic group or whatever. Sometimes it's so hard to meet the needs of everyone in that style of situation. So I think the style of group that you are, with the flexibility and the ebb and flow and all that stuff, is actually a really needed and beautiful thing for, families whose kids can't stick to a rigorous schedule. So I think that's wonderful. I'm very grateful that you're out there and you're brave and you're a good example to others who can give it a try too. And you know what? If it fails, don't worry about it. And I do the air quotes because it's not even necessarily well, we might call it a failure, but I don't think God would call it a failure, because if you're being obedient and stepping out in courage to do what He's called you to do, that's a success, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a learning experience for trying again. Oh, this didn't quite work. Let's try it this way this time. Or, like I said, the ebb and flow, it's changing a little bit as we go along, and be willing to just kind of let it become what it needs to become, right? My
Yeah.
co-op, as we were trying to figure out, I think it's been around for 25 years, maybe even close to 30, because it's been around for a long, long time. So, I mean, that goes with shifting, um, moms being the leaders over the years. So some moms started it, they passed it off, they keep passing it off, and they keep passing it off, and it has changed. It's not the same now as it was when I started years ago, 13 years ago. Um, and that's just because who's in charge and who's there and who's part of it and stuff. So it's the beautiful thing. It ebbs and flows, and it becomes what the community wants it to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, God can do amazing things through a courageous person who steps out and connects people together. So I'm very grateful for what you're doing. And I wanted to share with everyone out there, if you have a group that you would like to get out there. Like Maria said, she had a Facebook page, but if you would like CHAP to list your groups so that others know that you're out there, please go to chaponline.com/resources. There's a find a homeschool group section there when it says you can get listed on our website. And what we do is we don't only list the county that you're in, but if you're like, I know up in the north, folks cross county lines to get together because you're a little bit more few and far between up there. So the groups list in nearby counties too, just so that you're aware that there's groups somewhere out there for you to get to. So if you have started a group, or Maria, if you'd like to list yours, or anybody out there who's looking to make others aware that your group exists, please go to chaponline.com and let us know about you, because we want to help you get the word out there. People use that resource a lot. I mean, on my show and the questions that I get, that like top tier question that comes in, where are the groups around me? I want to get connected with a group. How do I get connected with a group? And I know there are tons of groups out there that we are unaware of. So any of y'all out there have groups that you want others to know about, please reach out to us and we will get you on the list so that others can find you more easily. But kudos to you, Maria. I am so glad that you leapt out in faith and you're doing this awesome thing. I just think God's going to bless it, and he's going to bless your family and the kids in the community, the families in the community. And you're just going to build some really amazing close relationships that, I don't know, I just think he's going to do amazing things in your life through it. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you for coming on and sharing with everybody. Guys out there, have the courage. If you feel like God is leading you to do this thing, go ahead and do this thing. And you know what? That building relationships and community and figuring things out like that, it's all part of following Christ in all of life, right? And that's what we're doing. We're teaching our children to follow Christ in all of life, and they can see us stepping out in faith and being courageous, doing this thing. So who knows what your children will learn from you by starting a group. It'll be good things that you don't even know that you're teaching them, and they won't even realize they're learning. So that's the best kind. All right, Maria, thank you so much for coming on. And guys out there, check out Maria's articles. They are on our digital magazine. Do you know where those are posted? I should know that. It's on chaponline.com. Go out there and look for our digital magazine. Maria's articles are out there. You're going to want to check them out. So, yes, thank you for stopping in. Remember, chaponline.com/events. That will tell you all about the events that are coming up here this winter time. And keep your eyes peeled for next week. We're going to have another interview of one of the speakers that's going to be at the Midwinter Conference. So thank you very much for tuning in today. Thank you, Maria, for coming on the show. Yay, I'm so glad we finally got this to work out. It's been challenging, but we got it done, and we're here sharing this encouraging message with everybody out there. So thank you so much, and everybody, we'll see you again next week. Have a good week. We'll see you later. Bye now.